We will call to order the regular board meeting of the Board of Election Commissioners for the City of Chicago. Good morning. My name is Maricel Hernandez. I'm the chair, and with me today is Commissioner June Brown
Present.
and Commissioner William Cressy.
Also present.
Next item is the consideration of the agenda. Are there any proposed changes? If not, then we will proceed with the approval of the regular board meeting minutes of August 22nd, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved by Commissioner Brown.
Seconded by Commissioner Cressy.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Motion passes. Next item is the Executive Director's report.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioner Cressy, and Commissioner Brown. This week we have our budget hearings for both the county and the city. Our hearing for the county is on Thursday at 3 p.m., and our hearing for the city is Friday. We are prepared to address their questions as we head into our next fiscal year. Preparations for 2024 are in full swing. The board will be receiving our new electronic poll books from our vendor 10X for the use in the March 19th primary. And we had a test this week, a successful test of the activation of cards, voter cards. And we will continue to test moving forward.
But the voting cards are successful activation with what machine, with what?
With the activation of the cards to be used with the touch screen
Okay,
that has
With
the
the touch
person's
screen.
ballot on it.
okay.
The canvass mailing it to all Chicago registered voters has been completed, and we are moving forward with the second notice, which should be mailed out by the first week of December. Our HR department and warehouse staff are holding a job fair at the warehouse this Friday, October 27, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Great. And on the warehouse staff hiring, did we reach out to community organizations and,
Yes, we did.
yeah,
Yes, we did.
maximize, you know?
Yes, because the more agencies we reach out to that can help us further get our equipment out and prepare for the election, it really helps us as well. And we're establishing new relationships by reaching out to some of these other organizations that can help us.
How many staff, how many personnel are we looking for?
Well, at the warehouse, we normally employ from 160 to 200 employees during the election cycle.
And that's through from about when to when? That they work,
Well,
you know?
right offhand, we would say
Like when would they start working?
December or January. Because right now, the current staff at the warehouse, they're preparing and getting equipment ready as we speak.
Okay. And then they would work until we have a March primary. Would they continue working through the year?
Well, what normally happens is that they work until that election cycle, everything is cleared up from that election cycle, and then when we start preparing for, we'll say, the general election, let's say September or late August, they start coming back to help.
Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. And in terms of the second notice that we are sending out to those voters that didn't get the first notice?
Yes, these are the return notices.
Uh-huh. How many
so-
did we get, do you know?
I believe close to 120,000. That's the normal. When we do a canvass, we get close to 120,000
Okay.
back.
Okay. So we're sending out the second notices now, and then...
Yes, that will begin the first week of December.
Okay. Okay. Good. Thank you. Any questions?
None for me.
Okay, thank you. Our Assistant Executive Director is not here today, so we will move to our Public Information Director, Max Bever. Max, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Chairwoman. I believe this will be my final update for a while, but at the end of September, our partners at the Chicago Public Library were there to accept over nearly 500 historical ledgers and poll books dated 1880 to 1890, which is over a century's worth of records, and they're now stored in their new home in special collections at the Harold Washington Library. This was a good multi-year long process. I want to thank especially our staff at the warehouse that were present there with me and library staff to get all those ledgers up into their shelves in their new home. They're certainly big and they're not very light, but they are now stored there for immediate future, for next few decades we're expecting. Next steps there is we hope to get funding in the future for future restoration and digitization so we can digitize those copies and have those records be available to the public online in the next few years. Otherwise, they are open to the public back again. Anybody who is curious can go to the Harold Washington Library and request to see any of those ledgers in person. Last week, Adam Lasker and I, as well as our in-house counsel, Derek Blada, attended an Illinois House election security hearing. It was a subject matter hearing. We were invited by Chairman West to give short testimony as well as answer questions from legislators. We were happy to provide our thoughts and our expertise on many different election security topics, including cybersecurity, as well as the use of our election investigators, which is unique more to the city of Chicago than other election authorities throughout the state. We are happy to point to many of our successes, as well as the expansion of vote by mail and the permanent vote by mail roster, where we do lead the amount of people on that roster within the state. We appreciated the opportunity from Illinois legislators, and it was good for us to start this conversation. They plan to hold a few more subject matter hearings with additional county clerks and other election authorities throughout the state, and we will continue to keep an eye on that moving forward. As Executive Director Holliday mentioned, we do have a job fair at our warehouse on Friday. Just to give a little bit more additional information on our outreach, we did send the information to all the older people's offices within the city of Chicago, our community organizations. We'll follow up with a couple more emails, and as well as posting on social media. We did make some new connections at our last job fair of individuals, groups that work for workforce development, run their own Facebook pages, their own social media accounts, bringing attention to job hiring in the city. So we're hopeful that we'll have a good amount of attendance. We likely probably won't see the 100 people that we saw at the super site for our last job fair. The warehouse just is a little harder to get to, I think, for folks than that central area. But we have a full court press to get the word out through the rest of the week. And I believe that we are now going to schedule one last job fair, one last big push for all of our positions at the super site again, November 7th. We'll confirm that date and we'll get back to the commissioners once that is set too.
Okay.
The website, the new website work continues. We are still go for our mid-December launch. We are now in the building phase, so within the next few weeks, we should have really the bare bones, our skeleton of our designed website for the commissioners to take a look at. We're starting to do testing, but we're getting excited, and we'll have that ready right before the new vote-by-mail applications go out, including our new online vote-by-mail application. And then finally, we've got Election Hero Day coming up on Monday, November 6th, which we will celebrate. We're a national partner along with many other election authorities. It's a good chance for us to continue to recruit new election judges and election coordinators. But like previous years, we'll call attention to election judges as our heart and soul of our election heroes and profile a few heading into November 6th. I believe that ends my report.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, excuse me, Max. Just for the record, the meeting with the state legislature committee, that took place here in Chicago.
That's right. This was in Chicago, held at the Blandick Building. It was also a virtual meeting for legislators, so legislators from Springfield and across the state also did attend virtually. I do believe Adam Lasker has got some additional information he wants to share on that hearing for his update, but ultimately we were happy to join the Illinois State Board as well as the county clerks in Tazewell County, and I'm forgetting the other one, Adam.
Well,
Yeah. But,
we'll give Adam some time to come
Yeah.
up with that. On that. Thank you.
yep.
I have a couple of questions. On the election for the election security, do you know when the next committee meeting is?
Has not been scheduled yet, to my knowledge. We'll make the commissioners aware once we learn of the next hearing.
Okay, yeah, they're just starting veto today, right? As far as the number of attendees at the job fair, you said there were about 100. Was that your expectation, or were you expecting more?
We will, 100 is what we had for the super site location, and we were able to get a good amount of publicity around that. The warehouse, I wouldn't want to speculate on how many people might stop by. We are hopeful, but unfortunately it'll probably be less than that, just given its location and the specificity of that this is hiring just for warehouse part-time positions.
The other was for
For all departments,
And November 10th.
election judges, open positions, all part-time positions, including office and temp work.
Have you had any responses from the community organizations regarding this works fair?
They've been many of our community organizations have been extraordinarily helpful in sharing this information, not only to their newsletters, but also on social media.
And when you say community organizations, can you give me a sampling of who you might have contacted?
Well, we've got the League of Women Voters here in the room, but between Rainbow Push, we've got many of our groups under the Just Democracy Coalition, including Asians Americans Advancing Justice. I'm blanking a little bit more on the top of my head, but I'd be happy to get you a full list of who's on my email list for outreach, Commissioner Brown.
Okay, because there are some things that I think.
Chicago Votes, I'm sorry. There are a lot more organizations that could probably come to my head soon.
Thank you.
Okay. I have another question unrelated. We were discussing previously the possibility of a community forum, and where is that?
I wish I had followed up with you a few weeks back, Chairwoman, but we had discussed, as well as Lance Goff, who had been previously working on this with me, I think we are looking that would be in better shape for 2025. That we are in a place where we'll get past these two presidential elections. We will have debuted our new website. We will have debuted new voting tools. We feel that getting past the presidential elections with this new voting technology, as well as just getting past the season and having that year where no election is currently scheduled in 2025, will give us a better opportunity to better plan, do outreach, and to create a good agenda for a forum open to the city's voters. I know we had previously discussed, I apologize for not following up before, but I think our efforts would be better served when we have that time and ones where we can get some more direct feedback off of our new voting tools website, outreach, and how our performance went in 2024.
Any questions? Okay, we'll follow up on that. Thank you. Anything else?
Not from my end.
Okay. Next item is old business, infrastructure projects and changes in election administration. Anything there?
Nothing.
How about electronic poll books?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, yes, they're in the process of being delivered. Equipment is being delivered, and we have successful testing of the new poll book.
Okay.
So everything is on schedule.
Okay. And we intend to use some of them at some of the polling places or early voting sites in?
Well, early voting sites, we use the
I'm-
laptops,
Yeah, right.
but we will be using all of them in the March election, since this is a new vendor.
Uh-huh,
We had previously spoke about rolling it out,
right.
but with this being a new vendor, we have to do as we did with our voting equipment in 2020, roll it all out in March and see what we get from that.
Okay.
In that regard, Charles, how different, just from a judge of election standpoint, are the new devices from the old devices? Would there be a steep learning curve, or should they be able to adopt it?
They should be able to adopt it quickly, because a lot of the systems that were reviewed by us, they kind of operated the same. This one just a little better than the others.
Okay. And anything new with regards to voting equipment?
Done.
Okay. Mr. Lasker, legislation, today is the first day of the veto session.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Last I heard from the State Board of Elections, we're still not expecting any election-related bills to pass through the veto session, but we will be watching it closely. Derek Bleda is, of course, watching every bill that comes into the veto session, and he'll let us know right away if he sees the
Is
word
anything
election
there?
in it. And I did want to tack on to what Mr. Bever said about the Ethics and Election Committee meeting that we attended the other day. I just want to compliment the chairman of the committee, Representative Maurice West from Rockford. We've now had several different meetings with him on legislative matters. He's reaching out to us and having a dialogue with us on legislation more than any other committee person I've seen since I've been with the board, so I'm very pleased with how that's going. It was nice to be with him face to face. We had some nice conversations. Some of the points that were raised by other speakers there were about election judges and trying to increase pay. So I actually had some conversations right after the meeting, both with Representative West and with the county clerks and others who were there, about the fact that here in Chicago, we're paying our judges a little bit more than other places around the state,
right.
but still, under a minimum wage. We're trying to look to increase that, but the big challenge we have is that there's, under the federal tax code, once a poll worker hits $600 a year, we would then be required to do withholdings, and it creates what we're looking into now is the administrative, basically payroll services that we would have to do to get the tax forms out to, collected from all the judges and then mailed to the IRS and all that. So I even spoke with Representative Chairman West about that Illinois can't bring a solution there. We need to
Right.
talk to Congress out in Washington to try to get an amendment to the tax code if anyone wants to support the idea that maybe poll workers don't need to be taxed for those 2 days a year that they work in elections. That would make it a lot less expensive for jurisdictions to pay a higher wage to,
Right.
their judges. So anyway, that's not local legislation, but I just wanted to inform you that we do have a very nice dialogue with the chairman of this committee now, and I'm pleased with that.
Well, maybe we should have a conversation with our two senators, U.S. senators, about this and get their feedback and reaction, because I doubt anyone is really aware.
That's the issue, is because I never thought about it this way
Right.
either. I'm not a tax law attorney, right? And I
Right.
didn't really think about it this way. And I hear all these election authorities, their representatives who know a lot about elections, and everybody seems to agree, let's pay the poll workers more, but it's not on everybody's radar screen, this
And
the additional expense it's going to cost the taxpayer
Right.
to do the payroll.
And it also should be an issue that's brought up with our organizations.
Yes.
Like ISAC
Yes.
and, yes? They are? Well, we should, yeah, well, we should get in
Yeah.
touch and do some coordination here.
I agree.
And like I said, our senators should be informed and involved.
Sounds
Okay?
good.
Just for the record, in case it was off microphone, Mr. Goff noted that the Election Center has a task force on this issue. And I think this also goes to a matter that's been raised before, mostly by the chair, is that it would be good for this board to have a lobbyist, somebody who could bring this issue. Usually we're talking about bringing things to Springfield. This would be one that we'd have to bring to Washington. So I think there's another good reason for that in our budget. Thank
Well,
you.
we have a lobbyist.
We do now from the short-term
Yes.
contract, and
Right.
we'll work
Right,
on that
but
for next year.
it's a
but
good
yeah.
reasoning for
Yeah.
that, just to
Yeah.
keep it going forward.
Absolutely.
Because not just
Mhm.
Springfield, but also Washington. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is that it for
That's it for legislation. Thank you,
Okay,
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next, we go to new business, and we have a property use agreement with 108 North State Street for the Block 37 for the 2024 primary and general elections. Mr. Holliday? Are you?
Yes, this is, Block 37 is where we house the training for the election judges, election coordinators, and then on the election day, we have our standby judges, standby field investigators also. So this contract, it's it's being used from what we normally do with Block 37, with an additional room also for more spacing. And we would like for the board to approve this for our 2024 election cycle.
Okay.
Starting in 2020, we cut back on the amount of space we were using there because the COVID pandemic forced us to stop doing in-person judge training.
Right.
But so now we've increased back to another room, added that other room on for the additional in-person judge training.
And if I recall, on election days, we also use those facilities as like assembly areas for, standby judges or.
Investigators,
investigators,
standby
yeah.
judges, that's their holding area and the dispatch center.
And we've had good experience with the landlord there and with the facilities.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
it's been a
have.
very good relationship.
It's very well located, too, for transportation for
Yes.
people. Yeah.
And we have a lot of staff that goes back and forth, so it's very
Right.
helpful. It's right across the street.
Very good.
Did we do something on this earlier, and this is just an amendment to add the room? Didn't we do something earlier this year on Block 37? I thought we signed something, or you signed a
Well,
contract?
so he signed for the primary and authorization for them
And
to.
and this is to continue or add a room?
This is to approve the full agreements for both the primary and the general election.
Okay.
They're,
No, not for, I thought when we were getting the space, this is a change to that, or is this a continuation?
well, it's a change to it, but it's not, but in last year's elections and in 2020, there were different agreements. So this is, there are short-term lease agreements. So those prior agreements expired, and now for this coming election cycle, the contract has the additional room put back into it. They needed to start doing some of the build-out work.
Right.
So we had Mr. Holliday authorize them to begin the work on the representation that we'd be moving in. And so now today, there's actually two different contracts this year, one for the primary and one for the general. And we're
Okay,
just,
because I was just thinking that we had done something, not from the last election, but earlier this year regarding this, so this is a continuation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, if there are no further questions, from what I understand, the total cost for this rental is $231,000, and that's divided between $139,000 for the primary election and $92,000 for the general election. So is there a motion to authorize the executive director to execute a short-term two property use agreements with 108 North State Street owner LLC for the use of space inside the Block 37 building in relation to the 2024 primary and general elections with a combined total cost not to exceed $231,000 throughout the 2024 election cycle.
So moved by Commissioner Cressy.
Seconded by Commissioner Brown.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next, we go to our legal report. Mr. Lasker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Three quick topics I want to address. Number one, we do have, as you're well aware, the pending RFP for vote-by-mail services. The evaluation committee has judged, it scored all the proposals, but we do have now, pursuant to the procedures of the RFP, we move into contract negotiation, and there are some issues that we need to address with the vendors. I'll follow up with you individually for more details on that. Let's see, number two was there was a recent circuit court decision I just find kind of interesting. It was involving the county clerk's office because it involved from the April 4th election down in the Dalton School Board District 149. One of the candidates in that race filed for an election contest. First did a discovery recount and then filed for an election contest with the circuit court, and did file the case within the statute of limitations, so the case could move forward. But then there were substantial delays by that petitioner and the petitioner's counsel, legal counsel. Details about those delays are in the court's decision. But there was so much delay that the county clerk's office moved for a dismissal under Supreme Court Rule 103B, which requires, due diligence in the prosecution of a legal matter and under laches. And the court granted that because, several months have gone by now, which does make it, it was an April 4th election, and this decision came out some half a year later to dismiss the case because it still hadn't even gone anywhere, making it, as the court pointed out, it would be extremely difficult to have all the witnesses and to recreate the election that far after. There's very clearly a statutory scheme to expedite an election contest just like all other election-related matters. So I find that to be interesting.
Yeah, well, let's see if that's going to be further appealed.
Yeah, we'll see. It
Yeah.
likely may, but because it is just a circuit court decision, but we'll keep an eye on that. And finally, we're going to be moving forward with our preparations for electoral board hearings, and starting to work with having the hearing officers come back. The proposal I've got for now is I've been meeting with Barb Goodman, who is one of our big assistants with the electoral board matters. She and Jim Nally from the county clerk's office, legal counsel, had a meeting, and we're proposing to do a joint training session. We always have a training session before the electoral board cases. The county has started using many of our hearing officers as
Right.
well, and so there's so much overlap that we've decided that for the general philosophy and law, which is the same for both of us, we'll have combined sessions, and then we'll have breakouts for the actual individual administrative procedures that are specific to each office. So we're just preparing to move forward in that regard and starting to get ready for the election cycle.
Okay.
Excellent.
Any questions?
No, but Madam Chair, if I might, going back to our, it made me think of this, our contract for business, where are we on our contract database?
And actually, that's, that was another thing I wanted to report on, and I was having a senior moment, I guess. We're at a standstill right now. We're in the midst of a bit of a disagreement as to the terms of the contract. They have created the procurement side of the software program. We had many lengthy meetings with the procurement office and our finance office and Trish Sheehy from administration and myself, and we described to them in many meetings the very detailed nuances of how contracts are procured around this office. And they created the procurement aspect. It turned out that now the contract module is apparently separate, and so we were asked to start a second round of meetings. And we can't quite explain why this second round of meetings with a new employee has become just as complicated and involving every single step of all the procurement procedures all over again. And what it comes down to is the original contract, as everyone from our procurement agent, myself, everyone around in this office understood the contract to be, is that we were going to get both modules of this software for a price not to exceed $173,000. They just recently came back to us. They've exhausted that amount now, and they've come back to us with another estimate of another perhaps $120,000 or $130,000 more, so that apparently they want this to be a $300,000 software module. That's not what we were anticipating. Had a meeting with them last week where I said I can't present that kind of an expansion to the contract to my commissioners without a very thorough written report from them to justify basically doubling the cost of what we thought this software was going to entail. So I'm very sorry to say that on the contract side of the module, we're at a standstill while we wait to resolve that matter. And I will be, of course, reporting to you once I receive that report from them.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Let me go back to the RFP for vote by mail services. So that seems like it's a little ways off from a final, it's a lot, we still have to.
Well, there's still work to be done to
Yeah.
nail down the terms of what the contract will be. A lot of different details go into the process for this, because there's all the data information sharing, both on the content of the ballots and the voters to whom they're going to get mailed to. They do the printing and mailing, and, so there's just a
Right.
lot of detail. And based on the different proposals from the different vendors, we come across different matters that need to be ironed out for the contract.
So is that something that we're looking at for post-2024?
No, well, this is for the starting with the March 2024 election. So this is a matter that we hope to present to you for a final contract. It's looking like maybe not by the end of November, I'm hoping. Maybe not by the first meeting in November, but hopefully by the end of it. It might take a little bit longer than that. I'll just have to see how things continue to
Okay,
proceed.
I'm just wondering when we're running up against that time.
Yes, indeed.
And how quickly can they get, everything together?
Yeah.
And, is this going to be a smooth process? That's,
Once everything is nailed down, they should be able to start. They've all got the equipment they need, and they know how to print and they know how to mail. So it's just a matter of getting some details ironed out. And there's so many details that we don't really have time to do it here in this meeting, but I do intend to follow up with all three of you today if you're available, or because there were some developments from just last week, Friday, that I want to follow up with you on.
Because you said the evaluation has already completed, right?
On the proposals and
So
the
we know
presentations
who
that
we
were
want. It's
made.
just a matter of working with
We-
that particular.
Exactly. The evaluation committee has determined the order in which they believe their preference would be, but that's not the end of it. We have to look at feasibility and legal issues and so forth.
okay. Okay.
Yep.
I believe that's.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, then we'll proceed with a financial report. We have a balance sheet and voucher listing for the City of Chicago, a 2023 appropriation number 23-06 dated October 24th, 2023, in the amount of $982,632.57. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved by Commissioner Brown.
Seconded by Commissioner Cressy.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Now we'll go to public comment. Do we have any requests for public comment here? No?
If I may note, Madam Chair, Helene Gabelnick of the League of Women Voters is here, and apparently there's some other person from the league. Could you introduce her to us? Just for the record. So are we going to be seeing more of her as well? And what is her name again?
Jeannie Turner.
Thank you.
Jean Turner. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for coming. At this point, we're going to entertain a motion for executive session. There will be no action. Of course, during executive session, nor after. We'll simply adjourn at that time. So at this point, is there a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
to discuss employee performance.
Okay, I wanted to get the legal language in there that Adam discussed. Yes. So moved by Commissioner Cressy.
Seconded by Commissioner Brown.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Motion passes, and we are out of open session and in executive session. Thank you very much, everyone. You're welcome to come back if you'd like, but,
You want to come back and watch us adjourn?
okay. We are back from executive session. No action was taken in executive session. And at this time, I will, if there's no further business before the board, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved by Commissioner Cressy.
Seconded by Commissioner Brown.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you.